I anxious? Like, what is going on with me?
All right, everybody. Hi, I'm Katie Harris, owner and CEO of Nursepreneurs, and I'm here with Lendra James. Lendra, so excited to have you on our podcast episode. This is a special edition of marketing. So we're going to be talking about marketing, and we're going to talk about virtual summits. So, Lendra, tell us a little bit about you and why you're an expert in this area.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Katie. This is actually a topic that I really, am so intrigued with. So a little bit about me. I've been a nurse for over, oh my, like 20 something years now. And, I've worked across the country, worked my way up to nursing leadership, achieved my doctor of nursing practice degree. And, I got to a point where I needed to step away from the traditional setting of nursing, and for my own personal reasons. I think, Katie, you and I've discussed in the past that my I started my own business, and my business, DL James Consulting, is a result of my experience as a healthcare leader. And I wanted to take my business and make it impactful, right? And I wanted to, and when I say impactful, I developed a multifaceted business. And I am an author. I have a wellness business. I'm a speaker, and I also am a course creator, right? Along with being a healthcare consultant. And one of the courses that I created was the virtual summit course. And that was after me experiencing and hosting my own summits, right? So I think I mentioned this previously as well. I never knew the power of virtual summits. And one of the reasons why you would do a summit is because you want to make an impact, right? You want to make an impact, virtual summits are really a great way to have an impact on an audience and really reach an audience outside of your geographical location. So I'm really excited to talk about this today a little more. And if it's okay, one of the things about virtual summits, so when I talk about how I never really knew how impactful they can be, my experience is I attended a mastermind, and at that mastermind there was a group of other women business owners, and we were in a small group, and the small group talked about, we talked about goals, and we talked about challenges, and my goal, and it just kind of came to me, I said I wanted to host a summit. And, I was challenged and asked, well, what's the problem? Here's your panel. Right. And I was just like, all right, well, game on, and it turned out to be, a really great event. And I said, I want to do this for healthcare workers. And here we go. Earlier this year, we hosted the Health and Wealth Expo, a virtual summit, and it was so impactful, so resourceful. We had experts, from very different entities from different industries, right? So we had nurse practitioners talking about mental health in nursing. We had other nurses who have their own businesses, talking about, the impact that their businesses have. And these were nurses who, a couple of them still work inside the traditional setting, but they were able to start their own businesses on the side. We had attorneys, right? We had an attorney talk about healthcare law, and talking about the different, when we talk about IV hydration, because I have an IV hydration business, right? And there's a lot of people going into med spas and aesthetics. And he really broke down the different laws that you need to know when it comes to starting those businesses. So it was really, really, really impactful. We had someone talking about personal credit and business credit, which is one of those things that isn't talked about in healthcare. And so I say this to say virtual summits they're such an impactful way, and they're great for lead generation as well, right? Like when the IV American Association, when they started they started with summits. When in 2021, they saw how impactful, they saw the IV hydration industry expanding, and they started putting together master classes and workshops and summits. And within a year, their community just exponentially grew, and they're still growing. They're nationwide. They're like international now. They're like nationwide now.
Yeah.
But this is from virtual summits, so that's why this is something that is really, when you talk about having a business, and it really can be applicable to any business, right? So I'll stop there because I know I said a lot. So
You did say a lot. So yeah, I mean, first, I'd like to say that you're right. The virtual summits do have an impact, but one of the reasons that I like them, and I've done one in the past, and I think I went a little overboard with it. Like, it doesn't have to take over your life, and like it did mine. I just, I went from 0 to 10 million for no particular reason other than it just. I'm like, let me invite 50 people. Like, and trying to coordinate that was just ridiculous. And there literally were 50 people on my summit. And so it took me about 5 years to get over it. But then you inspired me because you did your summit, and it did have such an impact. So with my new business, the Philly Wellness Center, I was thinking, I have to find the energy to do this again. But maybe I don't have to invite 50 people. Maybe I can just stick with 10, and so that's what I've done. I already have 8 speakers for it. And it just serendipitously, we focus on hormone therapy, and I work with women going through menopause. Serendipitously, menopause month is the month of September, and that is when my summit is. So it's at the end of September. So I wish I could say that I coordinated that perfectly, but it just happened by chance. I'm holding a menopause summit during menopause. But one of the things that I'll say that it did, because I'm very introverted, and I have a tendency to kind of not want to bother people, that kind of stuff, which is not very helpful in business. But the summit allows me to reach out to people with a purpose. And I needed like somebody to talk on urinary incontinence. And so I started reaching out to physiotherapists that specialize in pelvic pain. And they're like, oh, look, and by the way, your business looks really neat. And so, it's a way to connect with people without being salesy in any way. And just being able to connect with other partner businesses and do something for like all of us without it just being, a completely overwhelming shutdown experience.
right. We actually had, so to your point, we actually had about 10 guests, 10 speakers for the summit. And, and that's how we were able to bring expertise from various different areas. And like you said, it doesn't have to be, 20, 30 people. If you want, and if you can organize that, great, and we can definitely help you do that. However, you can have a very impactful summit just from 10 speakers.
Right.
And, the power of virtual summits, and that's the power of it, right? Because you're able to reach a nationwide audience. You can reach people in the UK, right? You can reach people just California. You can reach people in Texas. That's the beauty of it, the power of the reach that it allows you to have. And then when you mention collaboration, it's great because when we had our summit, when we talk about collaboration, one of my summit guests is now one of my coaches, right? And then another one of the guests, and she was actually a little reluctant because she's a little, I think she likes to call herself an introvert, but she's extroverted, but she actually now she's writing a book. Right. She's writing a book. That's another one of the services that I provide. I created a mini course on how to write an ebook, right, in 30 days. And, so we collaborated on that, on her writing her ebook. So she's writing an ebook now. She's now coaching successfully. The attorney that was on there, I still send him coaching clients who are starting their own businesses. So the collaboration, right, it leads to such collaborative success that, again, you don't have to go too big with your guests in order to have a successful summit. And that's the beauty of doing it virtually.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah, and absolutely. And it doesn't even need to be national. Like mine is a local event. Like I don't necessarily want to appeal to somebody in Alaska because I do hormone therapy. So
Right.
They have to be able to get here in a couple of months. So we're really going to focus on local businesses. And this is something to think about when you're looking at your own business, or, even if you don't have a business and you want to get networked and you want to know other people. I mean, you don't have to own a business to launch a summit. You can launch a summit just to get to know people, and you curating a guest list like that. I mean, people associate you with those people. So, if you have a successful list of business owners, people are going to assume you're a successful business owner as well, just by association.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. I completely agree. When we talk about the power of virtual summits, it really helps you build your authority, right, in your niche. It helps you to be able to broaden your expertise as well. Or like you mentioned, you needed someone to speak on urinary incontinence, right? So guess what? Now I have an expert, right, on my email list or in my contacts, and I can reach out to this person for something else that
Right.
I may need
Right.
help with or assistance with. So that is definitely the beauty of it. One of the beauties of it, I should say.
So, one of the big fears, I think, in putting something like this on would be like, well, what if nobody shows up? Or how do I get people to show up? I mean, can you speak a little bit to that?
Oh, marketing. So the marketing piece of it, and you know what? I know it rolls off my tongue like that's so easy, right? Because we know as business owners, it's marketing is, it can be frustrating, right? You try social media, you try paid ads even, and it can be very frustrating. And that's another beauty of the virtual summits, because it can really help you generate those leads that you will need in for your particular business. So when we talk about marketing, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is, who are you inviting? Right? Make sure looking at who you're inviting, what is their email list like, right? And if I have an email list of 5,000, right? Or, me and someone else, their email list is 5,000. We're two great people who can put together a nice summit. And, we add someone else in addition who has a great email list. And now we're able to market to a huge community, right, of people who have the interest in the topics that we're going to be discussing. So when we talk about marketing, you do want to use social media, but you also want to use a collaborative effort, right? And that's when you talk about collaboration success. That's how and these are things that you have to come up with your key performance indicators, right? So when you're planning your summit, these are the things that you want to think about when you're planning, so that you can look at these KPIs, as we call them, and decide, okay, how are we going to market this? We're going to use our email list. We're going to use each of our social media strategies. And if you have it in your budget, maybe you do paid ads, but it's really that collaboration that's going to help you really really market this effectively.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, when I first did this, I had a pretty small email list at the time. So, sending an email out to, like, let's say you have 100 people in your email list. I mean, that's nothing to scoff at. But in terms of putting on an event that you want like 1,000 people to come to, let's say, having an email list of 100 is not going to quite cut it. So, doing Facebook ads is a reasonable way. Now I knew going into it that in order to get, 1,000 people to sign up for the summit, I was going to have to spend more than $1,000 to get that number. And I think all in, we might have spent about, oh God, it's been 6 years now, maybe 5,000. And I got 4,000 people on my email list. So that was, a little, again, overkill. Like, it wasn't necessary. You could do a budget of, maybe you do just pick a budget of 1,000, and generate, and people coming in, signing up for your virtual summit. And those leads are much less expensive than trying to advertise to somebody. So when you set up a Facebook ad that's a lead generation, all you want them to do is fill out their email information. That's way less expensive than trying to get someone to purchase something. Or sending them to a place to purchase something. There's a huge difference between the two. So the one might cost you pennies on a dollar. The other one, I mean, a conversion, like if I tried to get somebody to convert to hormone therapy, I mean, I could spend, $400 per person, to get them in the door and treated.
Right. And, and we break this down really well in the course. As far as when it comes to marketing, because marketing is going to be a big piece of it. So that, and marketing, to your point, it can be, you may have to put a little bit of budget in there, but like you said, you don't have to spend $6,000. And that's the beauty. And that's why you're doing it virtually, right? Because and that's the other thing about doing the summits virtually is you're saving on cost, right? So, and it really depends on your perspective. Are you more concerned about saving on the overhead costs? And if you wanted to look at it, well, I'm saving on overhead costs, so maybe I can take that money and put that into the marketing. You can look at it that way. Or like you said, you can just budget yourself and say, okay, this is how much I'm going to put into those ads. And that's my cap for that. So you definitely can do it that way as well.
And you definitely have to treat it as a serious marketing budget because it is a big deal. Like virtual summits will generate leads for your business, which will generate business for your business. So it's legitimate marketing expense and it has to be treated as one. So, I mean, I wouldn't go in, fully committed to not doing ads. I mean, I think you miss an opportunity there.
It is. I agree. I think it is a missed opportunity if you don't do ads. And it just, again, it depends on what your budget is, what your perspective is, because some people may want to do a paid event. Some people may want to do a free event. And again, so you really have to decide on what the pros and cons, weigh those pros and cons for each. And that's something else that we talk about. And we break that down as well in the course, talking about the differences in the pros and cons of paid versus, versus free. Because like you said, one of the things that you get from the leads, even if that particular lead doesn't generate any income initially, they're now on your email list and you can continue to market to them continuously. So, so that it's still a lead. So you're right. It's still something that you don't want to take lightly because this is now still someone who will possibly buy your book in the future, or maybe there's another course that you may have, or maybe there's another product, I should say, that you may have in the future that may be of interest to them. So that's the perspective that you have to go in as the organizer of a summit, as a business owner, from a business perspective. You really have to take a look at it that way.
Yeah, I remember one of my marketing coaches had said that, when somebody hits your website, like some ridiculously low percentage of like 3% are ready to buy right at that moment. The rest will come back, which is why you have to have some sort of lead magnet to get them on your email address so that you can continue to market to them. And, there's a lot to be said for that. Because if you spend money driving people to a website, and then there's nothing for them to sign up for, and the only thing they can do is purchase, and you're going to lose 97% of those leads by not having something there for them. Now, the other thing, and I'll just tell you what we're going to do for my summit, and I did this the last time too, is that the summit is going to be a free event. So my goal is to get as many email lists or as many email addresses as humanly possible. Like as much as my budget can can tolerate it, I want to drive leads because to what you just said, I'll be able to send them weekly emails and all these other fun things. But the second part of that is that I also know from doing virtual summits that 7 to 10% will sign up for an upsell, right? So, I mean, that means 90% won't, but, to get 10% of people to sign up for an upsell could feasibly pay for the ad spend that I'm anticipating to do. So what is that upsell, that upsell that I'm going to do for the expected 10% of sign up for it is a $49 all access pass, but because I have a local store, it'll be $49. One, they get access to all the videos, but I want to display the videos later. So I don't want to, have only 10% of the summit to see them after the summit. So the idea is for them to have a virtual Philly Wellness Center wallet. So if they spend that $49 to get the access to all the videos, they get $150 credit in my store to use at any time. So, then it feels like they, without cash, make sure you tell them they can't redeem it for cash. You will get people, I spent $49, I want my $150.
I like it.
Yeah, so that's one way to also get them into the store. So if you think about it like that, if you have like an IV hydration or med spa, and you have them spend $49 and they get $150 credit, well, I mean, the average med spa appointment seems to cost me anyway, like $1,500. So, that's a good deal for the business owner.
It is. And you know what, and you're right. And so when we talk about, and that actually goes back to what you were saying and about when we talk about marketing, right? And that's something that we did also. So when we talk about marketing and you have the paid ads, right? When you think about your upsell, so these are the things that you have to really consider because look, I'm going to make, my goal is, right? Or one of my key performance indicators is to make this much back in my upsells, right? So yes, I'm paying for paid ads, but I'm also going to do an upsell. And that's something that we did also. So we had our replays available. So if you purchased a VIP, we had an access pass as well. So if you purchased a VIP all access pass, it was $49, and then it increased to $97, and then afterwards it was still available, and it's actually still available on our website as well because we still have the website available for it, and it's still available. And so to your point, that upsell, that piece of it, you got a VIP, you received the playbook, you received, the access to the replays. So these are your upsells. So this is what you have to consider. And then there's also sponsorships, right? Yeah. So, when you talk about, your marketing for for your ads, again, you have to think about what you can make back. So you have sponsorships, you have upsells. So these are the things that really can not only help your summit to be successful, right? But then you can kind of get a peace of mind and, go into it, knowing that this is a business expense that is going to be so worth it. Like that's how you have to go into it with that mindset. And I say this to say, because I'm speaking to everyone, because you have some people who will, go into it and say, well, I really don't want to spend that much money. But then you have some people who will go into it and say, you know what, this is worth it. I want to get a good ROI. I want to get a good return on investment. So I'm speaking to everyone when you talk about just giving options. However, one of the best options would be to don't really, what's the word I'm looking for, Katie? Like, don't sell yourself short on, penny pinching when it comes to the paid ads, because they'll definitely be worth it in the long run, and think about how you'll get that money back anyway.
Right. Yeah. And if you think about it, so, I was just doing some math in my head at $49, if 10% sign up and my goal is 1,000, and 1,000 signups, 10% of that is 100. So I'm looking at, potentially mathematically anyway, of $4,900. So to me, my budget for ads probably will be around that $2,500, $3,000 mark, because it's not going to cost me $49 to get a lead, right? It's going to cost me maybe $1 or $2 to get a lead. So at that price, I could probably overshoot my goal. But and to your point, getting people into the store is way more valuable, because again, like the average cost of something that we do is about $500 to $1,000. I do wellness, not so much med spa, but I don't have as high a cost of stuff to do. But yeah, so around 500 is about the average that somebody would come in and spend.
Yeah. And you know what, in wellness, so when we talk about health and wealth, it really goes, I'm a big, a big advocate on, your health and your wealth, hence the Health and Wealth Expo, right? So when you talk about people coming in, so even for my business, right, my wellness business, We started out as IV hydration. We expanded to weight loss. Now we've expanded to post-op concierge. So when we talk about upsells, there's an area for upsell for each one of those areas, right? So IV hydration, you can upsell with, your IM shots. You can upsell with packages. You can upsell with memberships, right? And those are just some examples. With weight loss, you can also upsell with IM shots, right? You can upsell, you can upsell with IV hydration along with the weight loss, and the same thing with post-op concierge. You can upsell with packages. So there's always a way to increase your revenue and have, different upsells. And it's just, and that's just a part of business. So you have to constantly be thinking about marketing and business, and that's how you keep your business in business. Really. And that's something that I actually I talk with my nurses about as well. Because, a lot of times they have the IV hydration and it's like, oh, well, this client wants something else. They want to rebook in a couple weeks. Well, did you, suggest the memberships to them? Oh, I didn't consider that. Yes, suggest the membership, because this is now a recurring client who they feel great after receiving their service. They're very happy with you. Let's show them what we have to offer. So that's how you continue to bring in, well, that's one of the ways anyway. And, continue to bring in your recurring clients. So.
Right. Yeah. And people love to buy stuff, right? They don't like to be sold to. So if I went to you and said, you need to, buy this, buy this, buy this, I'd be like, whoa. But when they come in the clinic, they're like, oh, what else do you have? And they want to go through my list of services. And one lady walked out with, I'm like, wait, you can't take that. Then I'm like, I need a brochure with all the list of, because I don't have all the list of services, and because we get a lot on one brochure. So I'm like, I need to make a brochure, because they want to flip through something and look at it and
oh my gosh,
want to buy things.
I actually just redid my brochure. So one of my nurses actually, she actually redid it, and I was like, oh, this is great, But I never thought about putting, a lot of more. I kept my brochure very simple, in the beginning, and it worked for me. However, I noticed that people do like to go through and they like to see the prices and they like to see more, more services. So we redid the brochure, and thanks to one of my nurses, and people love it. I'm like, oh, okay, listen, it's worth it. So again, but you're constantly marketing, and that's really the point and the takeaway. Right. You're constantly marketing, and even things as simple as brochures, right? You're marketing that.
Yes, and for those of you that just kind of avoid marketing, I think the virtual summit is a good segue in. It's a way to really generate a lot of leads very quickly surrounding an event that you network, you're hosting, you're really elevated when you're hosting a summit, and people just instinctively trust you and see you as an authority. So I mean, it's and even speaking at them. So if you have the opportunity to speak at a summit too, absolutely, I would jump on it. But
absolutely, and you're completely right. Once I received quite a few calls. I remember. So when we talk about when I did my summit, the virtual summit, when I did my summit, first off, my book sales just increased dramatically just in 2 days. I was just like, oh, okay. I was like, this is great, right? So my book sales increased in 2 days, and then my calendar was booked out for 2 weeks as well, because those strategy calls. So again, these are those ROIs that you have to consider. And then, like I said, the partnerships with the other speakers, they actually started to see, people calling them. And I think I mentioned before, one of the nurses, she's now doing coaching. And if I didn't mention this, she's actually doing coaching she does mental health. She's a mental health nurse practitioner. And she helps other nurse practitioners start their own mental health practices. And now she's starting her second cohort, helping other mental health nurse practitioners. So again, this is the power of hosting a virtual summit. I've had people in other businesses in my area wanting to do local events, right? For in person. summits as well. So these are, like you said, it really positions you as the go-to person. That people start to see you as a great organizer, you're an authority in your niche. And, so now you're able to showcase your expertise. And one thing I like to always say is, as nurses, healthcare providers in particular, we are experts and we have to own that. And virtual summits, they're just such a great way, especially if you're new to your business, if you're having trouble, gaining leads. Virtual summits are such an awesome way to really start and get your email list going so that you can really start in speaking to your audience, right? Because sometimes we can have a list and it may not be our audience. And you know what? And that's okay. So virtual summits are a great way for you to do that because you're attracting people who are interested in the particular topics that you're organizing. So and you know that this is going to generate your people.
Absolutely. All right, Lendra. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today. With people who are interested in learning more about virtual summits or working with you in a virtual summit, where can they go?
So I'll share with you the link that you can share in the show notes. So we have a virtual summit course that's available. We have an on-demand course you can take the course. We also offer a mentorship program that is a 90-day mentorship program along with the course. We also have a community that's available to really just help you, every step of the way, provide you with actionable tips on getting your virtual summit hosted and prepared and organized. And we also have some opportunities to help with adding the NOLA system, the CRM system as well. And that's just an amazing system that I know you've talked about before. But so we also have an opportunity for you to work with NOLA as well as your CRM. But again, if you're saying, you know what, Lendra, I don't need all of that. I just want the course. We have the on-demand course available as well. So
awesome. I love it. And I'm thinking as you're talking that we should probably do another one of these after my summit so we can debrief and talk about what went well and what could be improved and all that kind of good stuff. So
absolutely. I love it. So I'm actually hosting another summit, a Health and Wealth Expo. It is going to be in person in Washington, D.C. on October 24th.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, we're trying. So we're trying to be able to bring it to, your cities as well. So we're trying to decide on the second and third locations. However, October 24th in Washington, D.C. it's actually going to be at the National Harbor.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be an in-person, but again, the virtual summits are still the way to go. Let me tell you.
There's places where you have to start setting up conference rooms, and oh my gosh, the stress of you really got to make sure people get butts and seats, and that's tough.
And that's the beauty of virtual, right? So I know we're wrapping up, but that's the beauty of virtual. You don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about the overhead. You don't have to, people are right in the comfort of their own home. When we had our Health and Wealth Expo, a lot of people, the attorney, I remember he was at a conference already, and he was able to take 45 minutes away from his conference to be able to attend the virtual summit.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have been able to have them otherwise. Yeah.
Exactly. So trust me, there is definitely huge benefits behind doing it virtually.
Awesome. All right, Lendra. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie.